Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Newsroom. I'm Maddie Paul. Inside the Newsroom, we bring you the trending stories of the Keloland area, and we bring in our newsroom staff members right here at the Keloland Digital Desk. Hey, everyone. And they talk about their experiences and their passions and how they created their own stories. So you get a behind the scenes look when our staff members come in and talk about these stories because they're sharing their experiences, they're sharing their storytelling tips. They're just giving you that behind the scenes look that you otherwise wouldn't have seen that goes behind creating our stories that are trending in our area. Hopefully by the time the show keeps launching, because this is the first day the show is launching, by the way. So woohoo, let's celebrate. We'll get some more merch in here is my goal. So when we have this shot right here, you can see some Captain 11. You can see maybe a Kelo Plus mug, all of the fun things, maybe even inside the newsroom, now that I think about it. So join us every day at 1 o'clock. This is the official launch day. So thank you for watching. And let's get started with your trending stories. A manhunt has come to an end. Police have arrested 57-year-old Van Luther Bolter, the man authorities believe is responsible for the shootings of two Minnesota lawmakers and their spouses. South Dakota Governor Larry Roden ordered flags in the state to be flown at half-staff to honor Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman. Roden had said in a social media post, quote, "Violence has no place in our political system and it must end." Also, Senate Majority Leader John Thune had reacted and said that he was horrified by the recent events in Minnesota. Also, over the weekend, demonstrators gathered on Minnesota Avenue in Sioux Falls as part of the nationwide No Kings protest against Trump administration policies. The crowd spanned 3 blocks, lining the streets with signs referencing democracy and the Constitution.
These rallies across the country, and we are all saying the same thing. I don't know who's listening, but I am hoping and I am praying. And I think the voices are expanding and getting louder.
Switching gears, 2 new road construction projects will impact both vehicle and bicycle traffic in Sioux Falls starting today. So the first one, the outside northbound lane of North Minnesota Avenue, will be closed from 14th and 18th Streets. It's the latest phase of sidewalk improvements along Minnesota Avenue, and the entire project should be finished by about August. And then also starting today, a section of the bike trail at Tuthill Park, which is east of Southcliffe Avenue, will be closed for certain repairs. The project is expected to be completed by the end of the month, and the trail, it says, will still be accessible by Paisley Park. And now, the wait is finally over. We now know the contents that are stored inside a time capsule in southwest Minnesota, Hills, Minnesota, for the past 104 years. This is a 104-year-old time capsule that they finally opened. It happened Saturday at their Friendship Days festival. So some of the items that were kept inside were some newspapers dating back to 1921, a sealed scroll, and school records. I kind of predicted something like this would happen, where you'd see a little bit of written text. We thought like photos in the newsroom would be inside there too. But you could see all of the photos online at keloland.com, and all of these items will now be donated to the Rock County Historical Society, and they will be housed in the museum in Laverne, Minnesota. And now, whether you're rolling strikes for fun or competing with friends, the sport bowling has evolved into an exciting social experience. In Keloland, bowlers can take advantage of an incredible deal: access to 26 bowling centers with options for hourly play or multiple games at a fraction of the cost.
The Keloland bowling card is a great value. It's over a $1,000 value. It's only $165, 26 bowling centers across the state. So you can go on a tour of South Dakota and Keloland and visit all these different bowling centers and enjoy 2 hours of bowling or 6 games.
So if you're interested, head to keloland.com to check out how you can get your bowling tickets. But you better hurry because there only are going to be a couple of cards available. So you got to get on it while you can. And also, we do many special stories here at Keloland News. And we have one special one for Father's Day, something to make you feel good. Some fathers decided to celebrate the day at Sertoma Park. And as they enjoyed some quality family time, they reflected on how important their role is in their children's lives. Here's Jordan DeSmit reporting.
Nick Lysecki and his family celebrated their Father's Day at Sertoma Park.
I was just looking to just kind of relax the family a little bit, Looking forward to not having to make breakfast this morning. The simple little things, nothing too crazy. It's Father's Day, so you can take a little bit of a load off, but you're still on duty.
But this wasn't their first stop.
We did get donuts because we love donuts.
Also at the park was Chris Wrights and his family. To say Wrights' son is important to him would be an understatement.
He's just such a joy. And he's worth waking up every morning and going through every week and every day together.
Lysecki and Wrights found themselves reflecting on what it means to be a dad.
You're not really living for yourself anymore, and you're living for them.
It brings me so much joy to be a dad, to be there for my son and support him, to work hard for him throughout the week, but also spend as much time with him outside of that.
But both fathers know that the holiday isn't just about them.
And why do you think it's important to make sure we celebrate the father figures in our lives?
Just because they do so much. They sacrifice so much in life and what they do for their families. And so to be able to celebrate them, to honor them I think is really huge.
I guess being a father now, though, it gives me a deeper appreciation for my dad and all that kind of sacrifices that he's made over the years. The time he's given and given up. To making sure that I could be the person that I am today and that I could be successful and be where I wanted to be in life.
In Sioux Falls, Jordan DeSmit.
Still to come inside the newsroom, we are bringing a reporter in to the digital desk to sit across from me, and we're going to be talking about a story that they've been working on for a while, a preview, if you will, into some things that will be going on next year, including an election. Stay with us. Hello, everyone, and welcome back inside the newsroom. Now, our state gubernatorial primary for 2026 is really taking shape now. We're under less than a year away from our primary election, and we're learning more about candidates who are on the ballot. Joining me now is our reporter, Dan Santella, who just recently spoke to one of the confirmed ballot names. Dan, thank you for joining me at the digital desk.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Dan, we know that there are two names officially for the ballot next year, right?
Two bigger names, yeah, so far. And we have John Hanson, who's a Speaker of the House in Pierre. He's a Republican from the Del Rapids area. And then also Toby Doden, who lives in Aberdeen. He is president of Doden Investment Group and involved in investment there. He's running also for the GOP nomination, as you said, is now less than 12 months away when the state will get together and vote for that and start to further whittle down the candidates.
So just to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, both of them are running as Republicans?
That is how it's working right now. Yeah, exactly.
And then today is special because you got to interview Doden today, and we've been sending those requests for a while when we first heard that he was on the ballot, but you had spoken to Hanson before. Let's start with Hanson just for some context going into your story for today. When you spoke with John Hanson, why is he running for governor?
He's certainly, a conservative voice. He's on the younger side too. I believe he's going to be 40 in December, and he's aligning himself with a few issues, which he's already established name recognition with. One, the issue of personal property rights. He's come out strongly against using eminent domain for carbon dioxide pipelines, and he's also weighed in heavily on the abortion issue, against abortion rights. And he listed some of those as his bigger issues when he announced his candidacy. He's running with Carla Lems, who's another Republican lawmaker. And they announced their candidacy, maybe it was 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, something along those lines. That was at an event in Sioux Falls. We saw a number of lawmakers there. He's the Speaker of the House in Pierre right now, a conservative Republican, echoes a lot of the talking points we hear from President Donald Trump and right of center leaders nationally and regionally. And so that where he is kind of trying to set his mark. And he was the first name really to get in the race and to make announcements and and now Doden, of course, too, as well. He's a little bit older. He's 50 years old. He's going to turn 51 later this year. For those who aren't in the Aberdeen area or don't live there, they might be less familiar, but we're seeing a lot of his commercials, And he's the chair of a conservative political action group called Dakota First Action. Like I said, president of Doden Investment Group. And he's aligning himself strongly with President Donald Trump. And it seems through my conversation with him that he has zeroed in on the issue of property taxes as his number one issue. I asked him if he's going to seek to end property tax collection. I asked, are you going to seek to end it? He said, no, I'm not going to seek. I'm going to end them in South Dakota. This is the biggest issue. Of course, he might have a name recognition issue just because some of the other people who might be in the race. Dusty Johnson has said he's considering. Larry Roden has said he's considering. Marty Jackley has said he's considering. There's three big names in the South Dakota political universe. And Doden says he's going to be working to continue to get his name out there, and his supporters are going to be happy with what they hear. So we sit here in mid-June of 25. It's early June of 26 when the primary happens, so a long time from now. But like you said, some of the candidacies are starting to coalesce.
Yeah. And again, you had your interview with Doden today. Mm-hmm. And as you are beginning to craft your story that will be airing tonight for our newscast, what little elements are you already thinking about as you're wanting to put this story together? Because it's important. You have a lot of details and you have a lot of context that you need to go through. So what are you thinking at this point as you're just gathering it all together?
Well, the classic question that I wanted to ask and had to ask, why are you running? So that the addressing of that question. He had some pretty stark, strong criticism of Dusty Johnson and comparing himself to Dusty Johnson. I'm going to put that in the story. And his big words about property tax collection, how he's going to end that in the state. That's a big issue. We've heard it talked about from other people in politics, but to say he's going to end that, not just reduce property taxes, but end property taxes in the state is big. And I think, for so many South Dakotans, and they're not confirmed candidates yet, but Dusty Johnson, Larry Roden, Marty Jackley, these are known quantities. They've been interviewed several times. They know, as South Dakotans, they know where they stand on different issues. And Doden is much more of an unknown quantity. And I even asked him if he liked the descriptor outsider. Someone might not like that. And I don't know if that, to me, that seemed an adept descriptor for who he is in this race. I asked if he liked that. He said he didn't want to be described as anything else because he's the antithesis of an insider. Very much running as for the people, anti-establishment. I know it's tough to define some days what is establishment, what isn't, but that anti-establishment for the people, outsider candidate, he clearly is zeroing in on. So these are some of the elements I'm going to be putting in my story, I think, today. He mentioned how he's looking to hit all 66 counties. If you go to his website, there's a pretty robust schedule there. It's time will tell when or if we hear from other people. I know last I heard from Democratic Party leadership in the state, there are people considering running for higher office, but no news on that yet. And so,
Dan, a lot you have to get into, and we will hear that full interview in the pieces that Dan has selected tonight on KELOLAND News. Dan, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And still to come inside the newsroom, we are talking about the retirement of one Sioux Falls police official who you may be familiar with. Stay with us. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. A familiar face will be retiring from the Sioux Falls Police Department. And joining me now is a reporter who spoke exclusively to Sam Clemens to hear about his retirement process. Carly Phillips joining me now at the digital desk. Carly, what did you learn through Sam, and what was his overall message about this retirement that's coming up?
Well, it was really interesting just to hear how he kind of got into that role. Right now he's been the public information officer for 17 years, but before that he was a patrol officer. So, just out doing his daily rounds, as a police officer would. But to actually hear how he went into that role to kind of be the voice of Sioux Falls Police, as what the chief said, was really interesting just to hear, all the things that he does that you might not think about.
What was another message that he had to say about working in Sioux Falls for so long?
It's been a really good career for him, and I think he's really, really enjoyed it. I think he's definitely going to miss it. He said, he's leaving at the end of this month here in June, but excited for whatever next opportunity comes his way, it sounds like.
And Carly, when you put this story together, we call this story an Eye on KELOLAND piece. So could you explain for the viewers listening now, what's the difference between an Eye on KELOLAND story versus a regular story that you may see on our evening newscasts?
Sure. Well, an Eye on KELOLAND is a little bit longer, and it's more of a feature story. You get to go a little bit more in depth than what you might get to for a regular daily news story. Usually our daily stories that we work on during the day are about that minute and 20 seconds to a minute 30. But in Eye on KELOLAND, you get to kind of go more in depth and, really expand on the topic that you're covering. And they can get up to maybe 5 or 6 minutes sometimes.
How long did you think your interview with Sam, or the overall story once it was created, how long do you think that one took? Like 2 to 3 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, it was about 3 minutes long. So I think that's a pretty average time for an Eye on KELOLAND piece. But, it when you watch it back, it always goes by so fast, I feel like.
Tell me about it. And I mean, putting together an Eye on KELOLAND story for this subject of retirement and Sam and his legacy, honestly, here and working for so long in the Sioux Falls community area, I feel like was pretty important. Was it helpful for you putting this story together, knowing that you could do something longer instead of confining yourself to that minute range?
Yeah, and personally, I know Sam has helped a lot with us as a newsroom, helping us get, when things happen, always being there for us and helping us get the word out. And so being able to kind of reflect on everything that he's done in his position and share, every part of his story along the way and talk to some of his colleagues too was really, really good. So.
And, we're talking about multi-years that he's worked here, and then you have to put this in a story and you have a time constraint. So how did you decide what elements were more important to include in the story? What did you want to stick out for viewers as they were watching the story?
It's always one of the hardest things is trying to figure out what parts to put into your story and maybe what parts to leave out. But for me, I really wanted to focus on, okay, what has Sam done and what exactly is his role? And then also looking at, who's going to take over once he leaves? What is that going to look like? Because I feel like as a viewer, that's something that they probably want to know. So if there's something in my head that I'm curious about, the viewer's probably also curious about that too.
And who worked with you on the story? Because looking at the visuals, it's so interesting. When we go to police briefings, we always have our camera up on Sam, and you included that element in this story, having that camera in there. And so with the visuals that came with this story, how did you want to piece it together, and who did you work with for this?
Yeah, well, I do all of my own writing and shooting my video on my own, but it was really helpful to have one of our photogs, Grant, there, who was actually doing the briefing. So I could actually get video of him working and shooting how we always do it when we go to briefing and things like that. And so for me, it's just, I kind of do all of that work on my own, but it's also helpful to kind of have someone else there to kind of help you out and guide you along the way.
How often would you say you get to take a photog or a photographer with you on stories versus you doing all of your shoots by yourself?
I would say it's probably not very often. Of course, here safety is a big thing. So if we're going to maybe a live shot or a story that maybe has a little bit of a safety concern, I might bring a photog with me just in case. Otherwise, live shots we usually get to every now and then, but a lot of my daily stuff is usually I get to do it on my own.
And when you do your daily content by yourself, how do you look, or do you even look for ways to improve your content each and every day? Do you like to think about the visual elements or the written material? What do you look for when you work daily every day?
I think it's always interesting for me watching everyone's story once the 4 o'clock news starts. Sometimes I get ideas from other people's stories and how photogs have shot their stories or how other reporters have shot theirs, or even when we're going over our scripts, just thinking of looking at how other people have written their stories and like, hey, maybe I can try that for my next story. And I think that's really helped me, get better at shooting my video and also writing.
Because how long have you been a journalist here at KELOLAND?
It will be coming up at 2 years here in December, which seems like it's gone by really fast. But
wow.
Yeah.
Think about that first moment when Carly was writing a story up until now, when you've published stories literally daily, maybe sometimes 2 stories a day. If you could go back in time and see Carly on that first day on the job, what is one piece of advice that you would give her?
Ooh, well, there's probably a lot of advice I would give myself. Probably just don't overcomplicate the script, I guess, for me. We really try to be conversational in our stories, it's because, that's going to be the easiest way to understand the story, is just how you would talking in a conversation is how you want to kind of try to word it in your script. And so for me, just trying to simplify, a lot more of my writing and making it more concise and right to the point.
Carly, thank you for joining me at the digital desk. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about your creation of the story with Sam, or anything in general?
No, I think it was a really fun Eye on KELOLAND piece, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Carly. And you can read Carly's story online at keloland.com. There's an Eye on KELOLAND section that you can go to, and just search up SFPD Public Information Officer retires after 25 years. And stay with us. We're going to have more after the break. That's all the time we have today inside the newsroom. Thank you for joining us for our official launch of the show. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Until then, have a great day, everyone.